17. I think this is the beginning of my 18th season, so I'm very, very lucky. We've grown up together. You know, we can't believe that we're all in our middle ages, and we look around and go, what happened here?
I came down here, I think, it was the second season.
It was
the second season. There was The Immigrant, The Floating Palace that I was in, and Not About Heroes with Louis.
I mean, because you know I started off at the Learning Stage back in 1986. This was just 20 years now. Wow.
Well, just about everything's changed. We've gone from the college, we've gone through a number of names. Theater Club, Pope, Stage Florida, whatever it is.
Well, I think the determination of Lou and Nan would have suggested from the get-go that it was going to have a long-term relationship with the county. How many name changes, I don't think they anticipated, perhaps.
Good boy. Oh, the smell of the grease cage. The roar of 123 people. When we think back on how we operated out of a garage to get Learning Stage going, and then moving to a little house where we had no occupational license to run a business.
That's why I say Nan and I are the two longest running employees. I'm a little bit more sporadic. Actually, before I had anything to do with the acting part, I set up their box office for them for the Theater Club of the Palm Beaches. So that was my first real association.
in that little room.
In that little cubbyhole.
But it grew very quickly. Once we started the program, in that first season, we knew that people were coming, and then when all of a sudden 4 times the number of people in the second season came to subscribe, and then brought their friends.
Do you remember that subscription brochure that we printed without a phone number?
Oh, yeah. Aren't we still doing that?
We printed all these subscription brochures and then realized it didn't have a phone number on it. So we had to get a stamp made. We had to sit and Bert and Edith sat at my kitchen table and stamped for days.
Yeah.
We had a cassette deck and a reel-to-reel borrowed from the AV department that made a ka-chunk every time you turned it on or off, so the people in the back row were going ka-chunk. All right, here's the sound now.
I remember we thought we were very high-tech. We had some kind of fog machine, and it was the first performance and the first
preview,
moment
right,
of the first preview, and the music started, and the fog machine was filling the space with fog, and before the first line could be spoken, the fire alarm went off, and the curtain, the fire curtain, came down on the other stage where they were doing something.
Ballet.
I think
little ballerinas running around with the fire curtain dropping.
We of course started the play over again, and that was the beginning of Florida Stage.
We set off alarms right from the start.
Well, I think it's exactly what they do, which makes it so surprising that it has made it to 20 years. Because if you were to call up and say, what's playing, they would give you the title of the play. You go, haven't heard of that. Well, who's it by? And they'll give you the name of the playwright. Chances are you haven't heard of the playwright either. So it is really asking you to come along on the ride into the unknown.
Well, I always have felt that it's about the work. It's about the literature. It's not about familiarity. And names that we know.
I think the material that they choose, it's challenging. It's not bubblegum theater. It's weighty, informative, and it gives the audience something to chew on.
My first show at Florida Stage was Patient A. It had already opened, it had been reviewed, but I just went and watched it. And I thought, ooh, this is a theater I could like. This really does some interesting new work. New work happens to be a particular passion of mine, and over the years, obviously, they have continued with that. That is the hard stuff of what theaters need to do, I think.
There was not a theater dedicated to providing an outlet for emerging playwrights, for established playwrights' new work. And 20 years ago, it was much less than it is today. Part of the gratification of doing the work that we're doing now is that 20 years later, there are theaters all over this area and all over the country who have seen that there is an audience for new work and acceptance for new work.
We always, I mean, even as we became more professional, you know, when the staff was bigger than 4 people in a house, and we moved into this space, and suddenly we thought this space was gigantic, you know, and then slowly we're knocking walls, and we're moving desks, and we're expanding, and now, you know, I have 5 people in a space that was meant for 4.
Well, one thing that hasn't changed is the fact that it's solidly run, that Louis and Nan are still exactly who they were as people. The success hasn't changed them as individuals in their personalities, but also they always ran it with great care and with the idea of good work done by great people, treated very well.
When I got here, I just started cracking up. Everything was functional. You know, everything was. It was almost as if they had this book, and the book was titled, "This is how you do this," and they opened it up and they did it. They read it and followed the directions. And that's a really big deal, I think. You know, people who work in the arts, they're so used to going into an organization that's a little screwed up.
When you look at what Florida Stage has accomplished over 20 years, anyone can have a successful run for a few years. But to consistently deliver excellence year after year is something quite remarkable.
I think Florida Stage has lasted because of Lou Tyrrell and the people around him. I think Lou is a really extraordinary theater artist. He had a good vision for the company when he started it. He got great people working with him, people like Nan Barnett.
Our production staff is really large compared to other theaters of our same size, and it shows in the work. You see it in the quality of the work. You see it every time they walk out there.
It's not magic. It is not smoke and mirrors. You know, there's someone making the smoke, and there's someone moving the mirrors. You know?
I believe strongly that the public face of the theater really needs to be a group of people. The same kind of cooperative, collective team that make the plays possible.
How many times have you heard Lou say, "Oh, no, it's not about me, it's a collaboration, it's everybody"? He really believes that. Lou he demands that you get involved, that you take the risks with him, that you get as excited as he gets.
Louis laughs at us because sometimes we'll go to him with things like, you know, we have to buy new tablecloths, what color do you want? And he'll say, "I don't care," but he does care, and we know that he cares, so it's easier to ask him first.
Every person in this company is a face that this theater shows, and it's important that we show a good face. So it's important that we show who we are.
And I really think it's Nan Barnett, not because I married her, but I really think it's Nan. She understands Lou as well as his wife does, and better than he does.
And I do think that our staff sees our relationship and the health at the center of this professional marriage, if you will.
I don't know, you know, Louis was gone for a while this spring. It was kind of dull. It was kind of boring. I realized how much I enjoy just the yelling back and forth between offices, the running in and saying something. He passes through and drops something.
Well, I think in a lot of other theaters, the administrative offices tend perhaps to socialize with each other, and then the technicians socialize with each other. And I think they've maintained a very significant concept of, if there's a party, everybody's in attendance. If there is a social event, everyone is invited, so that there's not that segregation.
Like I said earlier, the thing that hasn't changed is it's all about the work and making the best quality work you can. And obviously the facility is a whole heck of a lot different. We're not using the little AV ka-chunk anymore. We're into modern technology.
Because from the top down, it's all about the work. You know, Lou is a good man, and that filters down through his company and ends up on the stage. But it's family, and it's good work. So when you are in that comfortable atmosphere, you do your best work.
I always feel when I go to Florida Stage that I'm going to have an interesting experience, whether or not it's an artistically uplifting experience. There will be something on that stage that I'll be glad that I saw.
We do new work, and we do challenging, thought-provoking work. That's our primary mission. So, is to make sure that we bring new work to the stage, that we challenge young theater professionals, and so it's a very creative process that we see at Florida State.
I can't envision leaving this company. I can't see it. I'm doing the kind of work that I've always wanted to do. I'm working with people that I love to work with. You know, it's like you work here and it's a real job. It's not, it has a whole different feeling and aura in terms of, because you're working in the arts and artists, so it's a whole different vein. But it has some of those things that a lot of arts organizations over the years, just because they were so focused on getting the product done, they lost sight of the people sometimes who make the product and giving them a place where they want to be. Why would I want to leave?
We talk about what will happen when, you know, it's time to hand the reins on to somebody else. And I've always said when he retires, I'll retire, because I can't imagine doing it with anybody else.
And I think that we provide an example and a very good story for why the theater will always exist, whatever technological advances occur, whatever changes there are in the community, because we need each other. We need that basic social interaction. In this 20 years, we provided the kind of example that shows that in the next 20 years, the next 200 years, theater will always be vibrant and speak to an audience.